The Caps fall to the Rangers, and Alex Ovechkin is out with a lower body injury.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen or view of the day. Yes, this podcast is also available in video form, so head on over to YouTube and check it out. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On today to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Caps, we talk about your Caps as they fall to the Rangers by a score of 5-3. A slow start, a third period rally, and they fall short. Where have we heard this before? We'll talk about that in the show. Then we will talk about the Caps minus Alex Ovechkin with a lower body injury. What will that mean for this team? And then we'll talk about the games coming ahead, most notably the Sabres and how they have to turn things around. But just to get it going here, the Caps do fall, and they fall to the Rangers, a surging Rangers team, a young up-and-coming team that made some big moves around the trade deadline, and those are paying dividends for this team right now. See Tarasenko and Kane, two players that have come here and solidified an already really great team, and they took it to the Caps, and the Caps ultimately didn't have an answer for them. They did have that third period comeback that fell short, but ultimately it was missed opportunities. It was giving up the puck in inopportune times. And how are they going to clean it up here? But it is a difficult thing for the Caps as the margin for error right now is razor fine. They are in a bad position already. So to lose more games on top of these must-win games is even more difficult. The Rangers are in the Metro Division. It would have been in the Caps' best interest to win this game tonight. And I know they gave it all and they got scoring from a lot of unexpected sources. When you start to see Matt Irwin start to score goals, that kind of thing, that, this team is, throwing everything they can at the Rangers. They pulled the kitchen sink out of the wall and they threw it at the Rangers. But ultimately, that wasn't enough. The kitchen sink was not able to stop the Rangers as they had their way with this Capitals team. But if there's one thing I could take away from this, and it was kind of similar to the Devils game, is a template for how the Capitals should proceed in the years that come. Probably after the Ovechkin years, but getting younger, getting faster, and also, adding some experience in there. Oftentimes when we talk about a team getting younger, they think that everyone on the team is going to be a rookie, this young rookie, guy that's 19 or 20 years old. That would spell disaster. I'm here to tell you. So when I hear a team needs to get younger and faster, and when I say younger and faster, that doesn't mean exclusively younger. It just means that they need younger pieces and sprinkle in some experience in there as well. Because Kane's not the youngest guy in the world. Neither is Tarasenko or Zibanejad for that matter. But they do have some young guys in the lineup that really help bolster that team and make them that much quicker. And who the Caps are playing next is the Sabres, and I'll talk about that in the third segment. Another team that is going to really throw it to them with a fast game. The Capitals just struggled right off the bat there. Like I talked about, they pushed hard in the third, but it wasn't enough. They're now 0-6-0 season without Ovi in the lineup, who missed the game with that lower body injury. Laviolette, though, he didn't mince words there. He didn't have an update on Ovi or Milano, who is out with a non-COVID related illness, other than to say, I have no idea when they're going to come back. Whatever our lineup is, it's got to be ready to win a game. And the Capitals were not ready to win a game tonight. They fell short. And Sandin, who has come to this team from the Maple Leafs and has played very well, gave up that one scoring opportunity that led to a goal. And, I understand that he's going to make mistakes. Everyone is fallible and can make mistakes. And, it just turns out that it led to a goal and ultimately not a really good thing for the Caps out there. But Alex Alexiev, for example, he was one of the stars of the game. I guess I would say he was another guy that has led his, coughed up puck to scoring opportunities. Alex Alexiev led with 5 shots on goal. So things are trending in the right direction in certain regards. Obviously, they didn't get the result that they were looking for. Irwin and Sandin were tied for the team, a lead in hits with 3. And then also Sandin kind of picking up those big minutes, what he has come here and done effectively in John Carlson's absence, logging 25-59. That's a lot of minutes for a guy that, before he came to this team wasn't really used to logging that many minutes. But that was kind of his mission and what was told his job is going to be when he's here in John Carlson's absence. And he has done that, and he has done a great job with it so far. I guess it ultimately remains to be seen what his role is going to be after John Carlson comes back, but I still expect him to take on a big role on this team even after Carlson comes back. But, the Caps they had a rough go of it tonight, suffices to say. But just taking a look at the game in general, while the Capitals failed to generate a lot early, Matt Irwin stepped up to chip in offensively. Oshie is also on a hot streak on his own with points in 3 straight and 8 of his last 9 overall, writes Washington Hockey Now. Washington is now 0-6-0, like I talked about, without Ovi in the lineup. And then just the contributors, Nicolas Aube-Kubel scores his 4th goal of the year to tie the game 1-1. Aube-Kubel, who signed a 1-year contract on March 3rd, has 11 points, 4 goals, 7 assists in 41 games this season. And one of those pieces, these pleasant surprises that came to this team, we know that he wasn't able to find a spot on his former team, and he came here and has played a big role in this team. He's a fast guy. He's got a good hockey IQ, has a bit of a snarl to his game, not necessarily like a Hathaway or a Wilson, but he will drop the gloves and is a bit of a physical player. So they gave him a 1-year extension, and I think it was worth it. He has chipped in and done a really good job as well. And then Aliaksei Protas, who is often scratched as of late, just based on the players that were coming in. But when players are subtracted from the lineup, that means an opportunity for other players. In this case, Aliaksei Protas and Joe Snively. Aliaksei Protas recorded the primary assist on the Caps' first goal. Protas has set single-season career highs in assists, 8 points, 11, and games played 44 this season. So one of the things you got to like about Aliaksei is even though he's in and out of the lineup and he's been bounced up and down from Hershey to Washington 100 times, he can come into a game where he hasn't played in some time and just really killed it and done a great job. I ultimately think there is going to be a spot for Protas on this team in years to come. It's just an interesting kind of, time in between now and the end of the season and then free agency in July. I think that there's going to be some players that maybe played their last season with the Caps. See Connor Sheary, see Craig Smith, those kind of players. I would like for Connor to return to this team, but I ultimately think the Caps just kind of kept him around until the end of the season. And I think once July comes, he probably will get moved on from it and probably go to another team, if not before. So just taking a look at it, that's what's going to have to happen. And that is going to present opportunities for some younger guys like Protas and, McMichael and LaPierre and that kind of thing. But as far as tonight is concerned, Protas played a big role on this team. And then Matt Irwin was credited with a secondary assist on Kubel's goal. In 51 games this season, Irwin has recorded 4 points, 1 goal, 3 assists. Matt Irwin scores his 2nd goal of the season to make it 4-2 with a goal and an assist tonight. Irwin has recorded his first multi-point game of the season and his 11th of his career. So this guy, Matt Irwin, is a bit of an interesting character for me. earlier in the season. In the previous season, he did not get a lot of playing time. He was that depth defenseman on this team where if someone got injured, in he went. And usually there's a bit of a lag. There's a little bit of a delay there where they take a couple games to ramp up, or at least a couple shifts to ramp up. But the really good thing about Irwin for me is, and I've talked about him, is you can put him in the deep freeze for months sometimes and then thaw him out and put him in game action, and it's plug and play. It's flawless. I think the Caps would be best served to try to get Irwin under a new deal in the offseason. Maybe not, I don't know if he is going to get a starting role. One of the things I do know for sure is he's well liked in the locker room, and that goes a long way. And for me, he's just a solid defenseman who has, some offensive. I wouldn't say he's, a great two-way defenseman, but he has a bit of it to his game, but just a really solid player on this team. And if they can get him on the cheap, if we can just look at Irwin as a depth piece, if he's okay with that and it accepts the money in the term of his deal, I would be all in on bringing Irwin back to this team just for his contributions. A guy that doesn't really complain, just does what is asked of him. And then TJ Oshie, the guy with a huge hockey IQ. He has the ability to see things that aren't necessarily there. Oshie recorded his 14th assist of the season on the Caps' second goal. Oshie has registered 14 points in his last 13 games, 7 goals, 7 assists, and now has 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists in 2 games against the Rangers this season. So for me, there every once in a while I'll hear people say, well, why don't the Caps move on from TJ Oshie? He's injured a lot, and that's ultimately because he plays that much bigger than he is. But in moments like this, you really see his value to this team. Score, if it's not scoring, assisting on goals, that kind of thing. A great playmaker and also an integral piece on this team. And then just taking a look at Sandin, a guy I've spoke of in the last few episodes here, has just come here from Toronto, primarily on a third pairing up in Toronto, has come here, played a huge role. Sandin owns the franchise record for the most assists, 8 assists in 5 games played in a player's first 5 games with the Caps, previously held by Geoff Courtnall with 6 assists in 5 games played. So Sandin came here and just has done, exceeded expectations. I think that when he came here that people thought, he's going to be an okay player or he's going to be a future player. He's a name I've heard around the league, about 22 years old. Maybe we thought he was a bit of a reclamation project. That couldn't be anything farther from the truth. He has come here and contributed to this team in such a huge way. And I think that, he is going to play a huge role for this Caps team going forward. And I look forward to his contributions. So my big takeaway from this game here is I think that the Capitals obviously struggle without Alex Ovechkin in the lineup and Sonny Milano, but Ovi in particular, the record indicates that. And also their ability to keep their eye on the prize the entire game. Like they had a slow start and then they tried to ratchet it up in the third period. It's all about playing a complete game. But I'm not going to say too much disparaging about them. I think that they gave their level best for most of the game. And I know ultimately we would like them to do their best the entire game. But I think that at the end of the day, they played pretty well. They kept in the game at points. There was just a 1-goal difference. There was the possibility they could have came back. Then there was an empty net goal and those kind of things. And those are always so frustrating for me. I understand the analytics behind it is pull the goalie, and maybe you'll tie the game or that kind of thing. As it turned out, it just really dug the dagger into the Capitals. And that was it. That was all she wrote, as they say. And that was the end of the Caps game. They did, start to stage that comeback. But at the end of the day, it wasn't enough. All right. So after the break here, we're going to talk about Alex Ovechkin and what he means to this team. And when can we expect him back? We'll talk about him next. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. And guys, even if you're not into betting, you could bet on an upcoming Wizards game. It makes watching the games that much more exciting. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger game payout with a same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to fanduel.com/locked on. That's fanduel.com/locked on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So one of the things that was talked about today was that Alex Ovechkin was going to be out of the lineup. And what do we know as of right now? Nothing. And Peter Laviolette was pretty angry about it, as I spoke about in the top of the show, saying it doesn't matter if he's in or if he's out. I don't know if he's going to be here. I don't know when he's going to come back. The one thing I know is this team's got to be prepared to win games regardless of who's in the lineup or not. Ultimately, doesn't sound that great for the Capitals. It doesn't sound like he's going to be back in a game or two, or maybe he just doesn't know at the end of the day. But I concur with Peter Laviolette. This Caps team cannot be one-dimensional, or we can't always say that the Caps lost because Ovi wasn't in the game. Because let's face it, they could have lost even with Ovi in the game. It happens, but I understand the record in the stat that I rolled off in the top of the show that the Caps are 0-6-0 this season with him out of the lineup. That's not lost on me. I get that. But I agree with Laviolette, and what he's saying is that regardless of who's in the lineup, the Capitals have got to be ready to go. And as it turns out, the practice that he missed, the day before on a maintenance day, as it turns out, maybe it was not just a maintenance day. Maybe it was an injury, and we're just finding out today what it is. All I know right now is what I've heard from the media website, and it says lower body injury. And I suppose we will find out in the coming days what it means. But what I know for sure at the end of the day is the Capitals are playing the Sabres tomorrow or today as you're listening to this podcast. And it is a young run and gun team, and they're going to give the Capitals all they can handle. And the one hope that I have as a Caps fan is they don't try to reinvent themselves and try to come at the Sabres with what the kind of game the Sabres played, because we remember the last time the Caps played the Sabres, they got worked over by a young team, and the Caps look winded and old, to be honest with you, on the bench. They're going to have to work on their skill set. They're going to have to make some changes, but the one thing I don't want to see happen is for them to try to emulate what the Sabres are doing. And to a certain extent, I feel like that is what they did in the last game. They kind of strayed from their practices that they normally they play their plays and their strategies, and they tried to come at the Sabres at their level. But we're coming down to crunch time here, and the Capitals. How I'm getting so sick of saying the margin for error is so narrow, and these are must-win games. Just know, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. These are must-win games until they're mathematically eliminated. And I don't think the Caps are out of it yet, but they are getting close to being out of it. And it's a bit of a tough thing for me to watch this team, as they'll get a big win in one game against the Islanders, and then they will play a game against the Rangers and fall, I wouldn't say flat on their face, but they weren't able to pick up a win. And when you take a look at it, if this team has any grander plans of doing anything, they're going to have to win games against the Rangers. They're going to have to win games against the Sabres and the Bruins and the biggest teams in the league if they want to win the ultimate goal, and that is the Stanley Cup. And how are they sitting right now? Okay, let's just kind of remove any of the stray, possibilities out of the scenario. Say Ovi is back in the lineup. Say Sonny Milano is in the lineup. Is this team built for the playoffs? It's games like tonight, and I know that I vacillated back and forth. Sometimes it seems like they're really dialed in. And then you have a game like tonight where it seems like they lost their way, and it's tough for me because the Rangers went out, a team that was already doing really well, and they kind of just threw their guns on the table and they're like, we're getting Tarasenko and we got Kane, and you thought we were good before. Wait till you see us right now. And they're pretty impressive, I got to say. And I think they're going to give any team that they face in the playoffs a run for their money. Make no mistake about it. And I'm going to also put, Boston in that as well. It seems like they've been humming along, but wait till they come up to some real opposition as well. I know that Boston has the best record in all the NHL, but there are certain question marks on that team as well. If they don't win a Stanley Cup, there's no justice in this world. But as far as the Capitals are concerned, it is going to be tough going here, and they're going to have to do it without Ovi in the lineup. I would say at least for the next few games. That's what it's feeling like to me, is that it's going to be Ovi out of the lineup, just based on the reaction that we heard from Peter Laviolette. Is I don't know, pretty much don't ask me, but the players that are out there have got to be ready. And they weren't. And that's something that's going to need to have to be worked on. If it's different guys in the lineup, if it's a different, and I hear this all the time, you got to quit messing with the lines and the D pairings. If it wasn't getting done, maybe they have to make some adjustments or alterations. I guess I don't know. I guess as I record this right now at 10 p.m., my hope for them is that Ovi is good to go as they play the Sabres. I don't know. We're not hearing any information. That's what I'm hoping for, is the Capitals are going to be in their best position to take on the Sabres and beat them on their level. Because as of right now, all I'm hearing is excuses about why they're not winning games. I want to see this team win games, and that's what they're going to have to do down the stretch here if they want to be competitive. All right, so after the break here, we will talk about the game tonight as you listen to this, and let's talk about what the Capitals have to do to win. I mean, we saw what they had out on the ice tonight. Is there anything that they could possibly do to get into the win column against the Sabres? I know that they don't sit on the top, but they are a young team that gave the Caps more than they could handle last time. Is there a glimmer of hope that the Caps can beat them? Let's talk about that next. Looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories? Then you've got to try Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little healthier this year. If you're like me, where you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise on taste, then man, I've got the thing for you. You got to try a Built Bar. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious you won't think they're good for you. Perfect for your New Year's resolution. So what makes them so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Yeah, real chocolate. That's right. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter, and coconut almond. And I've spoke to you for the longest time about how you can get these at built.com, but now you can also get them at your nearest Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter and churro. You can thank me later. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So we do know that the Caps do take on the Sabres tonight as you listen to this in the morning, and it's going to be a tough thing out there. And just taking a look at the schedule ahead, I do got to say that it does get a bit easier from here on out. So just taking a look at it, we know that they lost to the Rangers last night, and it was a loss 3-5. A game, again, I'm not going to say it was something that they fell totally on their face, but they didn't play engaged the entire game. If there is a script, if there is something I could tell to this team or instill to them, is to just play a complete game and just keep your foot on the gas. And I know it just seems like such a no-brainer thing to say. Of course I should play a full game, but it makes you wonder how the Caps would have played tonight if they would have picked up a W, if they would have had the same attitude in the first period as they had in the third period. But taking a look at the schedule a little bit further out from that, they play the Blues, they play the Wild, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Again, must wins. You got to win against the Blue Jackets, the Blackhawks, which are deplorable. And then as we get towards a later part of the month, it's Pittsburgh, which guess what? What do we know about Pittsburgh? They're right above them in the standings. Same goes for the Islanders. And then they play the Tampa Bay Lightning. So it is going to be a tough thing going forward. Make no mistake about it. It's not going to be an easy out anywhere we take a look at this. But the Capitals ultimately have to be ready. We take a look at the Blues coming up later this month. They are in 6th place in the Central. That is a game that they should be able to win. Forget all the BS that we're hearing out about there that, well, it was a tough game. They played the Rangers and, they lost to this team, but they're so good. I hate when people say that because those are the games that you have to win. But what's even worse is when you lose the games that you think you're going to win. So the St. Louis Blues, they are in 6th place. The Minnesota Wild, is going to be a formidable opponent. They are in 2nd place. They are surging here. That was a team that was kind of on the outside looking in for some time, but they are in 2nd place in the Central as I look at it right now. They're 67-38 with 84 points, and the Stars in 1st place with 87 points. So it is a bit interesting of a thing out there. And then also you take a look, another game that they're playing up there next is the Blackhawks, who sit in 8th place in the Central. If they can find a way to beat the Blackhawks and the Columbus Blue Jackets in particular, then I think you might have to pack it all in and send the circus on down the road, because those are games that you absolutely have to win. And there's zero reason why you're not going to win it. I'm going to say that if Ovi's in the lineup or not in the lineup, this team is better than those teams in every regard, and there should be no reason that the Capitals cannot take down all of those opponents, but most notably them. But the ones that I want to circle going forward here a little bit later is the Islanders. As I record this right now, the Caps have 71 points, the Islanders 76, and the Pittsburgh Penguins 78. So 2 big games coming up here at the end of the month. If they could find a way to beat the Islanders, if they could find a way to beat the Penguins, that could be huge. But they can't lose all the games between here and there, or that's going to even dig them in a deeper hole. But if you take a look at it, 71 points, the Islanders have 76, and the Pittsburgh Penguins have 78. I understand that they're running out of runway here, but it is attainable. But what else are you going to do? And then you take a look at the month of April. The last game is on April 13th. Taking a look at the month of April, it's the Rangers again. It's going to be the Montreal Canadiens, a game you've got to win. Same goes for the Panthers, a bit of a tougher one. And then to close out the season, it's Islanders, Boston, and the New Jersey Devils. If you want a litmus test, if you want the best measuring stick of this team, if this team has any hopes, any prayers of making it to the playoffs and doing anything, they have got to find a way to kill it out there, right? They just have got to find a way to beat. In the last week here, just taking a look at the schedule, the Islanders, you got to do it. You got to find a way to beat Boston again, and you got to find a way to beat the Devils. Those are the premier teams in all of the NHL. And if you want to have any hope of going to the playoffs or any grander dreams of winning a Stanley Cup, then you've got to win those games. I'm just kind of taking a look at the schedule here and just taking a look at games that they should win for sure. I'm going to say that they're probably going to lose against the Sabres. The Blues, they should win. Minnesota is going to be a tough one, but I'm ultimately going to say they're going to lose that one. They're going to win against Columbus. They're going to win against Chicago. It's going to be a tough one against Pittsburgh. I think they're going to find a way to beat Pittsburgh and the Islanders. And then the Tampa Bay Lightning, I think they could beat them as well. Taking a look at the Rangers on the second, I'm going to say they're going to lose that one. Montreal should be a win. Florida could be a tough one. I'm going to say they're going to lose that one. They should beat the Islanders and most likely lose to Boston and New Jersey. Just knee-jerk reactions. Looking at this schedule, I would love to be wrong, and I don't want to hear anyone saying you're wrong. I want to be wrong. I'm just taking a look at the schedule. Knee-jerk reactions, that's what I'm looking at. It is going to be very difficult for them to make the playoffs, and the thing that I'm worried about right now is even if they find a way to make it, what are they going to do once they're there? It's like they fought and they clawed and they got into it, and they're like, well, man, we're here and we're ill-equipped to handle all of this. I guess all of it, everything, pushing everything aside, all the negativity and everything else, is I hope this team can conjure up and kind of find a way to look at and remember back how they played hockey in the month of December and hope that they can find a way to win these games towards the end of the season. Those are just my picks, just looking at them and knee-jerk reaction, win or loss, win or loss. Of course, I would like to look at them and go WWWWW. It's just not realistic. Let's be honest here. But that is what I'm taking a look at this team. But the next game, FP Santangelo used to say this for the Nats, and it's kind of a true thing. Go 1-0 every day. That's the way you got to look at it. And right now, the Caps are taking on the Sabres, and that is their next opponent they've got to beat. They've got to find a way to do it. It's going to be difficult. And, like I said, just taking a look at it was not my assessment that they're going to win that game. But again, I would love to be proven wrong. And let's hope they can pick up a big win. Thank you for making Locked On Capitals your first listen today. Now make your second listen Locked On Game to Game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result, Locked On Game to Game covers every game across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game Locked On NHL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you find your podcast. So once again, thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals. Next thing you got to do is, if you're listening to this on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever, make sure and hit that follow or subscribe button. And then when you're done with that, go over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and then hit the thumbs up on the videos or leave some comments. It really helps grow the channel. We're at over 460 subscribers. Let's get it up to 500. And I have you guys to thank for getting me that far, getting this show that far. It means the world to me. And thanks, guys, so much for the support. A little bit later in the week, I will have the hockey writers on the show, and I will get his thoughts about the Caps, what happened at the deadline, what they should do in the future. It will be also much fun. So once again, thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.